Picture yourself walking down any British street built before the war. The houses are brick, solid red brick, laid by hand, one course at a time. The walls are thick, heavy. They look like they were built by people who fully expected their grandchildren to be living in them. Victorian terraces, 2 up, 2 downs, built for mill workers, dockers, miners, families of 6 squeezed into 4 little rooms. They were thrown up in their millions over 100 years ago. And here's the thing, most of them are still standing, still warm, still full of people, still doing exactly the job they were built to do. Now drive onto any new build estate from the last 20 years. The houses still look like brick. Same color near enough, but the walls are thinner, the rooms are smaller. Every house is the same house, printed 40 times down a cul-de-sac with names like Foxglove Close. And if you knocked your knuckles on the outside wall, you might be surprised at how hollow it sounds. Something changed, and it happened fast. It was driven by one emergency, one government, and a brand new way of building a home that was bolted together in a factory and dropped onto a plot in a single afternoon. Almost nobody noticed it happening, and by the time they did, it was already completely normal. Before the Second World War, brick wasn't posh. It was just how you built. Walk through Salford or Leeds or the East End of London in the 1930s, and nearly everything around you was brick. Not a thin decorative layer, actual structural brick. Walls a whole brick thick, sometimes more. Walls that carried their own weight straight down into the ground and held it there. Ordinary people lived behind them. Those terraces were built to last 200 years, and an awful lot of them have done exactly that. Then came the war, and the war did something to British housing that no builder ever planned for. The Blitz. German bombers came over night after night and flattened whole streets at a time. London, Coventry, Liverpool, Plymouth. By the time it was over, around 2 million British homes had been destroyed or damaged, and then the soldiers came home in 1945. Millions of men demobbed, getting married, starting families, all needing a roof. A whole generation desperate for a front door of their own, and a country with a gaping hole where its housing used to be. The new government had promised homes. The man put in charge of actually delivering them was Aneurin Bevan, the very same man building the National Health Service at the very same time. He needed houses, and he didn't need them in 5 years. He needed them now. So Britain did something it had never done before. It decided to build houses the way it had just spent 6 years learning to build aeroplanes. During the war, the country had thrown up enormous factories to mass-produce Spitfires and bombers. When the war ended, some of those same factories and the men who had run them turned to housing instead. And they built the prefab, a complete little bungalow made of aluminum and steel and pressed sheet, manufactured in sections on a production line, loaded onto the back of a lorry, driven out to a plot, and bolted together on site in a matter of hours. Kitchen built in, a proper bathroom built in, an indoor toilet, which was a luxury most of those old terraces never had. Around 156,000 of them went up across the country. And here's the part nobody expected. They were only ever meant to last 10 years. A stopgap, a temporary fix until proper permanent housing could be built. But people loved them. They were warm. They were modern. They had a garden front and back. And some of those 10-year prefabs are still standing, still lived in, and still loved today, 80 years later. But the prefab did something quiet and permanent to the British mind. It taught a whole country a brand new idea, that a home didn't have to be built, it could be assembled. It didn't have to be heavy, it could be light. It didn't have to take months and a small army of skilled bricklayers. It could be snapped together by Friday. And that idea did not stop at the bungalow. By the 1960s, the housing shortage was still desperate, and councils were under enormous pressure to build fast and build high. So they went fully industrial. Instead of laying brick by hand, they cast enormous concrete panels in a factory, trucked them to the site, and stacked them with a crane. Wall, floor, like a child, building with blocks. Whole tower blocks went up in a matter of weeks. It was fast. It was cheap. It hit the targets the politicians wanted hit. And then, one morning in May 1968, the whole idea came crashing down. Literally. In Canning Town, in the East End of London, stood a brand new 22-story tower block called Ronan Point. It was built from exactly those factory-made concrete panels, slotted together one on top of the other. Early one morning, a woman on the 18th floor went to light her cooker for a cup of tea. There was a gas leak. It ignited, and the explosion wasn't even that big, but it blew out a single load-bearing panel in the corner of the building. And because the whole tower was really just panels resting on panels with very little holding the lot together, the corner of the flat above had nothing left to sit on. So it fell, and it landed on the corner below, which then fell, and so on all the way down. An entire corner of the building came straight down like a house of cards. 4 people were killed. Ronan Point shattered the country's faith in building fast. The block was brand new, months old, and it had failed in the most frightening way imaginable. Not slowly, not quietly, all at once. The age of throwing towers up in weeks was effectively over almost overnight. But the deeper change had already happened, and it is still with you today in a way you have very probably never noticed. Look closely at a modern British house. It looks like brick, but that brick is only skin deep. Most new homes today are built as what's called a cavity wall, a single thin outer layer of brick, then a gap, then an inner wall of lightweight concrete block, or more and more often these days a timber frame. The brick on the outside is not holding the house up. The frame behind it is. The brick is a coat, a costume, a face. If you peeled it all off, the house would still stand there perfectly happily without it. And in plenty of newer homes, there isn't even a full brick on the outside at all. There is a thin slip of brick, just a few millimeters of clay tile, stuck to the wall so that the house looks the part from the pavement. It is wallpaper that happens to be made of clay. The thing that made a Victorian terrace what it was, that the brick was the house, that the brick held the weight, that the wall and the structure were one single solid thing, that is gone. We kept the look of brick. We quietly threw away the substance of it. And that matters because of how long these homes are actually built to last. A solid brick terrace, properly built and looked after, can stand for 200 or 300 years. There are brick buildings in this country that have been standing since before the Great Fire of London. The modern volume new build, by contrast, is typically designed to a life of around 60 years. 60 years. Build it, sell it, and by the time the second or third owner has the keys, it is already approaching the end of the life its makers ever planned for it. And that is if it is built well. An awful lot of them are not. New build quality has become a genuine national grievance in Britain. People move into brand new homes and find lists of hundreds of faults. Doors that won't shut, roofs that leak, walls that aren't square, damp creeping in within months of moving in. It got so bad and the complaints got so loud that the country had to set up a brand new homes ombudsman just to deal with them all. Brand new houses, quietly falling short behind a perfect brick-colored face. We've built our estates to expire, because here is the truth of it. The brick terrace was never just a building material. It was a statement. It said, I am building something that will outlast me. My children will live here, and maybe theirs will too. When Britain started bolting bungalows together in an afternoon, it made a completely different statement, and an entirely understandable one. We need homes now. People are desperate now. Speed now. And it was all true. The need was real. The crisis was real. The families were real. Nobody was wrong to build fast in 1945, but somewhere between the emergency after the war and the cul-de-sacs of today, the temporary quietly became permanent. The mindset of the stopgap slowly became the mindset of the entire industry, and the homes that were built to last a lifetime became the model for homes built to last a mortgage. Building a real solid masonry home today costs far more than the standard estate house does, but we don't build them. We didn't lose solid brick because it stopped working. We lost it because in one urgent moment we chose speed over permanence, and then we simply never went back. The old terraces are still out there. Walk down any street in any town built before the war and you'll see them. Still solid, still standing, still quietly doing the one job they were built to do a century and a half later, without a word of complaint. So maybe the real question isn't why we stopped building like that. Maybe the real question is why we're still so comfortable that we did. If this got you thinking, there's a video right here about what happened to the British front garden, why we paved nearly all of them over, and why that small, ordinary little change did something far bigger to our streets than simply taking away the flowers.